This show is so ridiculous and absolutely hilarious. Quite frankly, I could end the review right there because that's how simple my opinion of the show is. Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about American Vandal. It's a Netflix mockumentary that basically pokes fun at all these true crime documentaries, more specifically, like Making a Murderer, which is kind of ironic considering that is a Netflix show. The first season starts off with the aftermath of a prank gone too far in which dicks are spray painted onto people's cars. Senior class clown Dylan Maxwell, played by Jimmy Tatro from the popular YouTube channel Life According to Jimmy, is then accused of committing said crimes. Students Peter and Sam, played by Tyler Alvarez and Griffin, I think his name's Griffin Gluck, then launch an investigation, and so the true crime mockumentary begins. But we're not here to review season 1, we're here to talk about season 2. Much like season 1, season 2 begins with the aftermath of a series of pranks. One of the students ends up reaching out to Peter and Sam, and so they launch yet another investigation. Only this time the prankster is terrorizing the students by using a series of pranks, all of which involve poop. The culprit has an Instagram profile called the Turd Burglar, in which he posts warnings of his pranks, followed by the aftermath of said pranks. For the purpose of time, I'm only going to be talking about the one big prank that happens. There's multiple that happen throughout the season, but one in particular that is talked about throughout the entire season. And this prank is referred to as the brownout, where laxatives were put into the school's lemonade, causing everybody to just shit their pants. Like I said, guys, this show's pretty ridiculous. I think what gets me is how serious Peter and Sam take the situations that they're in. It's kind of like if you hire real detectives to find out who stole your Captain America lunchbox that had like half a sandwich and some Go-Gurt inside. These two really intense detectives arrive and then launch this full investigation to find out who exactly stole the lunchbox. That's pretty much what the show is, and I absolutely love it. A part of me was skeptical about a second season, mainly because it looked like they were repeating the exact same plot, and the only real difference was the setting and the fact that Dylan Maxwell wasn't in it. And for me, that was a huge bummer. He was responsible for most of my laughs in the first season, so I was a little nervous. I was a little skeptical. And I worried. I didn't think that they'd be able to pull it off, but I'd say they did. I'd say that they changed just enough of it so it didn't feel like a complete rehash of the first season. Granted, I wish Jimmy would have been in it. I wish Dylan Maxwell would have been in it. Even if it was just like a cameo or something, I would have liked to see him because, like I said, he was the funniest person last season. That doesn't mean I didn't laugh. It was still a really funny season. I still laughed plenty. I still thought it was a really amazing season. With that being said, I found it funny, but it being funny wasn't the most impressive aspect of the show. What I found most impressive was the fact that despite this being a comedy revolving around poop no less, I still cared about the story. I still wanted to find out who exactly did it, who the prankster was. Kind of like last season. Last season was the exact same thing. At the end of the season, I think that's what I was most impressed about, was the fact that I truly wanted to know who drew the dicks. Kind of like in this season, they kept that going. I still cared a lot about these characters. I cared about how exactly the story would end, who exactly was the culprit. I watched the first season in a day because of just how badly I wanted to find out who drew the dicks. Another way that I feel this show changed from the first season was that the first season felt like a parody of Making a Murderer. That's what it felt like. It felt like that through and through. You could tell that oh, this is in reference of that. Oh, this is in reference of that. And that's a recipe that worked well, but you can tell in this season that they focused a lot more on themselves, a lot more in becoming their own show. I guess if I had any criticisms, and they're just I can't really think of many because like I said, I really enjoyed this show. But I'd say they had a few too many suspects. They jumped from suspect to suspect to a point where it felt kind of like you're watching a tennis match where there's really no direction in where they're going. They kind of just kept throwing suspects at you and kept throwing evidence towards these people and evidence towards these people, to a point where it just started to feel a little jumbled, a little disorganized. And it was made even worse because it wasn't like it was tennis between two people, because like I said, there was a lot of suspects. There was about I'd say at least 5 or 6 suspects. Although you could also argue that this is an investigation and you're gonna have suspects. You're gonna have a lot of suspects usually. I only wish that they would have done more of a process of elimination instead of what they ended up doing, which is, like I said, just going back and forth a lot. Overall, this show is funny, well written, well acted. I even felt the length of the show was perfect. Any longer and I feel like I would have begun to lose interest. They end the season with a message about how everybody puts these masks on for social media. But putting those masks on isn't necessarily such a bad thing, because then that means only people that know you personally will ever know the real you. Like even me, I've been using social media since I was 10, 11. And keep in mind, I'm 23 years old. So social media has been around for a long time and it's going to continue to stay around. And it's good that we hide ourselves in social media because, like I said, like they said, only people that know you physically will ever know the real you. and I think that's really great. As with every one of my TV reviews, I do have a scale in place from 1 through 5, and in the case of American Vandal Season 2, I'm gonna give it a 4.5. I highly recommend everyone watching this video to go and check out American Vandal if you haven't already, especially if you already have Netflix. If you have Netflix and you haven't seen American Vandal yet and you don't intend on watching it in the future even after this review, you're doing yourself an extreme disservice. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe down below. Till next time, bye.